A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. I welcome you to today's Hindu news analysis session for 21st August 2025. So let's look at the topics for the day. All the UPSC relevant articles from today's Hindu newspaper, the New Delhi edition. We shall be examining them, looking at exactly which UPSC syllabus topic does it map with. Apart from that, I shall also bring you some prelims question, the answers to which have been attached at the last slide of this presentation, which shall be shared with you. So now let's begin with today's topics. And as you can see on your screen, the first two articles have been picked up from page number 6, 8. These are slightly lengthy, they need a more detailed examination, more for the UPSC mains perspective. The remaining articles are short, so we shall cover them more factually, primarily because we get good data for the prelims exam through these articles. The very first one on your screen is page number 6, and let's see what it talks about. Now, this article here is discussing Indian democracy, how India today happens to be world's largest democracy, which boasts of about 1.4 billion people. But despite being the largest democracy globally, the problem is that the right to vote, the right to universal adult suffrage, is something that we have failed to provide to our citizens. Definitely, it's coming as a backlash to what has happened in Bihar, as so many people were systemically removed from the electoral process. So many migrant workers, so many women whose names did not even come in the electoral rolls. That is what has triggered the problem. Today, the article is asking a question. Is Indian democracy not inclusive at all for migrant workers in a country like India, where majority of North Indian states experience a very high level of out migration? Many people annually, in fact, biannually, during agriculture harvest season, during agriculture sowing season, they continue to migrate from the northern rural states into the more industrial southern states. It's a regular phenomenon. Then how do we allow so many such migrants to be excluded from the electoral roll? How fair is this process? And with this kind of an attitude of the Election Commission of India, can we claim that today the ECI is failing to perform its duty as one of the most trusted age old bodies in India? This is the pitch of the article. And before we start, we know that this article matches with your GS paper 2. That is UPSC mains GS paper 2, polity and governance. Polity and governance, because here we are looking at main issues regarding the Election Commission of India. We are looking at democratic issues. We are looking at the right to vote as a statutory right. In fact, as quite a fundamental right. All of this has been stated in this article. So quickly, let's look at the key issue discussed here, and then we proceed about how does the article say solutions to solve the problem. What exactly is the constitutional dimension of this problem? Let's have a look at that. As I mentioned, India being the largest democracy across the world. A very good morning. A very good morning, Swarupini, Shaggy, everyone. So, India, as I said, being the largest democracy for about 1.4 billion people, is also one such country where, since the beginning, right when we were actually creating the first Lok Sabha itself, back in the 1951-52 period, since then to now, we in India strongly believe that the right to vote is a sacrosanct right. Universal adult suffrage, Article 14 of the Constitution, that talks about right to equality. Obviously, it is implied that in India, any citizen who is above the age of 18 has the right to vote, should give the vote. It is a political responsibility. It is a fundamental right as well as a duty. But today, we are seeing that internal migrants, those who migrate interstate basis or intrastate basis, as I have told you before, within the country, migration can be of three types. Some workers migrate from one state to another. It's very common with agriculture laborers, construction laborers, particularly from the states of Jharkhand, UP, Bihar, Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh. They migrate to southern states like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, where they get better chances of employment into the construction sector. In fact, even during agriculture season, there are tons of women and children along with men who migrate from UP to Maharashtra, primarily owing to the large scale sugarcane farming. Now, all these people, whether they migrate from one state to another, that's interstate, whether they migrate from one city or district to another, say from rural to urban areas, this is intrastate, or whether you talk about circular migrants, those who move from one city to another, one village to another village, one village to another city within the same state, but then they keep traveling back to their hometown. All these three categories are the internal migrants of India. But the problem is, in this electoral role of Bihar, we have systematically ignored them. Today, we are saying that India experiences about 450 million. India experiences about 450 million migrants. Okay, as per the 2011 census, these are the people who keep migrating from one region to another region. But then, if such a huge segment of population is comprised of internal migrants, what is the logic that in the special intensive revision report created by the Election Commission of India, we are saying that about 3.5 million voters, about 4.5% of the entire electorate of India was deleted. They experienced exclusion. They experienced a deprivation of right to vote. This, the article says, is nothing but a fundamental violation of a basic right that a citizen deserves in one of the largest democracies in the world. So, this omission of the names of migrants has created 4.4% of voters as ineligible to vote. Now, this means a lot. In a state like Bihar, where already in the past few years, the total voter turnout has been quite low as per the national average. So, therefore, what is the constitutional meaning of all this? Talking about the constitution, our constitution says there is an article called Article 326, under which every citizen has the right to give vote. It is about universal adult suffrage to Lok Sabha as well as to state legislative assemblies. Anybody above the 18 should vote and can vote. Are we not violating right 326, the article 326 of the constitution? Another thing is, we do have right to vote as a very essential component of the Representation of Peoples Act 1950. The RPA Act 1950 also includes right to vote as a statutory right, as a legal right. A lot of people ask this question, is it a fundamental right? Or is it about a statutory right? Now, as per the article, we are talking about a statutory right, a legal right that people have to cast their votes. These people today who have been deleted, they were found to be permanently absent or permanently missing. Do we realize why did this happen? This happened because during the time of data collection, during the time of enumeration and listing, they were not available in their houses. Come on, they are migrant workers. They are not sedentary citizens. Sedentary citizens are those who live at one place for a long period of time. But these are not those people. These are the migrant population. They cannot afford to live at one place for a very long period of time. They have to migrate. It is not a luxury. It is an economic necessity. This is for their life and livelihood. Does that mean Just because they are not available at the place of their residence during the time of electoral enumeration and listing of the voter ID names, if they are not available, we just consider them as missing citizens who then have no right to vote. Is it a valid thing to do? Or should we actually reconsider our own approach and provide them some platform through which they can cast their vote from wherever they are located at? Should there not be any online system? Should there not be a system like the remote voting protocol? How can we exclude them? Purely because they are poor and they have to migrate. So, this is the essence of the article right now. As I said, definitely excluding their names is a violation of Article 326. So remember this article, very important. It talks about universal adult suffrage, the right of Indians to vote in the Lok Sabha elections, in the state assembly elections. Second thing is right to vote, as I said, is also a legal right under the Representation of People Act 1950, the basis on which Election Commission of India operates. The third thing to remember from the Constitution is Article 324. According to Article 324, it is the role and the duty of Election Commission of India to ensure free and fair elections across the country and including every name in the electoral roll, plus making sure that the electoral rolls that are created are inclusive, irrespective of people's caste, gender, place of birth, religion. The rolls have to be inclusive and the rolls have to be accurate. The rolls have to be revised and updated timely. But has this happened in this case? Again, no. So, therefore, it is a violation of Article 324 as well. So, treating somebody's absence from their native place as permanent migration. That is what the article is trying to question. Somebody who is unavailable for a few months in a year, you call them as permanently absent people or permanently migrated people without investigating where they could be, without doing any verification of their Aadhaar update, any revision to their voter ID cards, ration cards, nothing is being done. It is just a labeling. You are not available when we are counting the names for election. So you cannot participate in the electoral roll. Therefore, you cannot give your vote. So once again, two more articles of the Constitution are coming in the picture. Article 14, right to equality. Is this right to equality? That's sedentary citizens. Now, sedentary citizens is a word the article has used for those who don't move from one place to another. Is it not a discrimination between sedentary citizens and migrant workers? It is a violation of Article 14, right to equality. Similarly, it is also a violation of Article 19. Article 19, 1D, the freedom of movement. Yesterday, in one of my articles, I had spoken about Article 19, 1G. I do hope everybody who took the session remembers. See, these are the articles you should know by heart from the Constitution. They help you substantiate your answers in the mains. Apart from that, sometimes in the prelims, also if you notice, from the polity segment, from the Constitution, there are very direct questions that come. Whichever articles from the Constitution have been in the news in the last 1 year, you should be perfectly prepared with them. You should be hands down with them. Therefore, yesterday if we spoke about Article 19(1)(g), we were talking about games, the freedom of playing games which involve skill. Today we are talking about Article 19(1)(d), right to freedom of movement. Indians can move from one area of the country to another area of the country. There is no restriction on that. You can choose your occupation, you can reside there, you can settle there. All that under Article 19. Specifically 1D talks about the right to movement. Again, are we not violating this fundamental right? Yes, we are. By saying that just because these migrant workers are moving from one place to another, they cannot give their votes. So do remember all these articles I have mentioned today. Article 326, 324, the right to vote as a part of Representation of Peoples Act 1950. Please do remember Article 14, Article 19, 1D. Okay, so this is the argument made by this article here. The article is saying that if we talk about the state of Bihar, very good morning, Rishi. Very good morning, Mamta. Absolutely, very well said, Shaggy. Yesterday, when we spoke about Article 19(1)(g), it was about how the Constitution gives you the right to play games which involve skill, but it does not allow you to play games that involve gambling or any kind of money laundering. Very well said. Very well said. Absolutely. So, coming back to today's agenda, all these articles do remember. Now, talking about the state of Bihar itself, let's understand Bihar experiences highest level of out migration in India. Many citizens of Bihar continue to migrate outside the state. We know the reasons. It's a Pandora's box. Unproductive agriculture, poor employment, fertility rates still above the national average, excessive deprivation, chronic hunger, lack of industrial, technical job opportunities, all these lead to out-migration. About 7 million people in Bihar are circular migrants. Now, circular migrants, as I mentioned, are those who keep migrating in a repeated pattern, in a circle. That's why they are called circular. Sometimes from city to village, village to city, one state to another, but they again keep coming back to their native place. 7 million is the data for circular migration in Bihar. What are the reasons, as I mentioned? It is a very complex, vicious cycle of reasons. Yes, absolute poverty is there in Bihar. Talking about multi-dimensional poverty, Bihar happens to be one of the poorest states in India, as per the multi-dimensional poverty report of 2021 by Niti Aayog. Similarly, migration then is not a choice for these people. It is a survival strategy. We all need to earn to survive. Impact on the families. Many times, it is the women who are also circular migrants. Maybe not because they are working, because they get married. Now, marriage at an early age is one of the prime reasons for migration of girls in India. So, in Bihar, the same thing is happening. Underage marriage is quite common, especially among the vulnerable segments. These girls, they migrate from one district within Bihar to another district, intra-state migration within Bihar. Sometimes they get married across states or they move with their husbands to perform agriculture labor, construction labor. Their names also get omitted. Unfortunately, these women come from a background where awareness regarding their rights is quite poor. Education is quite poor. They do not understand the process or the technicality behind re registering their names. They are not familiar with online digital tools or the usage of smart mobile phones or internet for that matter. They do not have a proper channel to talk to the local authorities. So their name gets permanently spoiled. It gets permanently omitted, deleted from the electoral roll. Another problem is the patrilineal, the patrilocal culture of India. Of course, after marriage, many women will change their names. That also causes discrepancies. The new surname after marriage sometimes disables them from getting re registration done unless they get all the valid documents like marriage certificate, birth certificate. Many of these women cannot afford or manage to get it back. That is also one reason their names are getting missing. Every year, the same thing is going on. Now, another problem is that there is a lot of economic contribution to this problem also. For example, migrants are also the people who are adding up to Bihar's income, Bihar's GDP. They are the people who migrate outside. They are also the people who send money back to Bihar, remittances. Any worker who works outside the region, their native region, will earn something outside and send the same money back home to their families, to their dependents. That also is a part of the state's economy. But despite the fact that they are contributing so much to Bihar's GDP, their names are still getting omitted. Is this not a pure act of exploitation? That's what the article is trying to ask. So, if this is the situation right now, now can you quickly confirm everyone that I am audible and I am visible? Can you please confirm? The visibility and the audio. I hope you can hear and see me perfectly fine. Okay. With that, what are the electoral challenges then ahead of us? Well, the biggest electoral challenge that we face today is that in Indian politics, we are favoring sedentary citizens. Citizens who are rich, who are comfortably living in one place, who are not migrant workers because they have a fixed, stable occupation. They will always get to vote. Their names will always be in the electoral list. In fact, it is very unfortunate that some of these people, despite getting their names in the election list, do not go and cast their vote. They are enjoying this pure luxury of having the right and still not using it. And on the other hand, you have the migrant workers who are being deprived of their right itself. Is this not a bias? This is a systematic class based disenfranchisement, dis class based snatching away of your voting rights, a complete class based disenfranchisement where you are taking away somebody's right to vote only because they come from a poor class, a poor socio-economic background. Similarly, sometimes, as I said, migrant workers are people who are caught up in a very sandwich like situation. Nor can they say that we are permanent residences of our native village, nor are they accepted gracefully in the new area where they have shifted to. There is a lot of regionalism in India, a lot of linguistic bias in India. Sometimes migrant workers face abuse, rejection in the place where they go and start working because the residents of the foreign state, of the new state, feel that these people are outsiders. They do not know our culture. They have no right to vote in our state elections. They have no right to vote in the Lok Sabha elections from our state. All these biases continue. Then there is another problem of local people disrespecting migrant workers, hitting them, abusing them because they do not know the local language. So, again, these people are facing a continuous kind of bias, whether it be because of regionalism, linguistic nationalism, or purely because the government is failing to acknowledge them and include them. Last but not the least, it leads to a suppression of women as well. Let's understand when I tell you every time that, okay, thank you so much for confirming, Shaggy. Thank you so much. When I say that it is Indian women who are the largest employees in the informal segment, I have told you earlier that Indian women contribute to the maximum workforce in agriculture sector. Oh, very good question there. What exactly do we mean by? I'll quickly go back to that point. What do you exactly mean by class based disenfranchisement? The word disenfranchisement means snatching or taking away somebody's right to cast their vote. Taking away the statutory right, the legal right to vote. This is the word disenfranchisement. Okay? Class based. When you take away somebody's right to vote only because they are poor, this is known as class based disenfranchisement. Because class here refers to your status in the society, your economic status, governed by your job, education, monthly income, savings, investment. So when we say only migrant workers are getting excluded from the electoral rolls, it means they are getting excluded because they are poor, because they migrate constantly for jobs. They have no stable income or no stable job. They don't live at one place. They are not like sedentary citizen who lives at one place because of a stable life and job. They are migrants. And that's the reason their right to vote is being taken away. Hence, it becomes class-based disenfranchisement. Also, it becomes gender-based disenfranchisement. Because as I told you, it is Indian women who compose the largest segment of ghost employees. Majority Indian women are working for the informal sector, particularly for agriculture labor. They keep migrating, whether it's sugarcane, whether it's jute harvesting, they keep migrating from one state to another. Therefore, women, particularly those along the India Nepal border who have migrated for work or after marriage to work with their husbands, are also people who are facing challenges because of lack of proper documentation and citizen rights. They often get caught up in a problem because government of India says you are not domiciled in India. You are a foreigner. You come from Nepal. At the same time, sometimes they can get an Aadhaar card, but despite that, they fail to procure a voter ID card. All these documentation causes a problem. Even they are not sure exactly to which place can they claim to belong to. Last but not the least, already Bihar has a very poor voter turnout, about 53.2% in the last four assembly elections. Just compare it with Karnataka. Karnataka has 70% people who come out and give their vote. Bihar has 53. In a state with already poor voter turnout, this kind of a disenfranchisement of people could mean disaster for our democracy. Is there a solution? Yes, there are. Only if the government is willing to do them. One is provide portable voter identity. Link people's Aadhaar cards with their voter cards very carefully so that with a valid Aadhaar card, a person gets the right to vote from whichever location he or she is available at. This will lead to more inclusive voting process. Create a solid online system in such a way that states are able to coordinate with each other so that there is no duplicacy in voting. Election Commission of India, through its state units, through the state governments, through panchayats, can create a protocol where registrations are done in such a accurate way that despite people migrating and getting to vote, there is no duplicacy or there is no chance of double voting by mistake. Similarly, please allow postal ballots. We allow them for the army people. We have allowed them for the elderly population, senior citizens. Why don't we allow them for the migrant workers? Why should we only exclude them? Similarly, we should create an online portal specially for migrant voting population, just like the One Nation, One Ration card scheme. That has done wonders actually. Similarly, create a similar system for One Nation, One voting system only for migrant workers so that at least wherever they are, wherever they have to be, if they do not have the money to come back home, if they do not get leaves to come back home, if they are women who cannot return to their parental house, they should get a chance to vote from wherever they are. That's the only way we can ensure an inclusive democratic process. This is what the article has said. We should include NGOs, panchayats, self-help groups in creating a much better outreach to migrant population. If you feel, if the Election Commission of India feels that some names are missing, do a proper revision. If the revision also does not meet the test, do a repeat revision, but keep on doing it until you have a list which is completely inclusive. You have to have the latest data. Otherwise, what is the point of having an election? Similarly, we need to amend the Representation of People Act, the RPA Act of 1950, so that it formally recognizes circular migration and dual residence only for people who cannot afford to have a sedentary life at one place. So this is what the article has said. A wonderful article, I think, for GS paper 2. Now, definitely such questions will come in the main exams because this has been in the news throughout this year. So you have to be very well prepared for this. Absolutely, absolutely. That's a very valid question you're asking. Yes, migrant workers have to face vulnerability of compounded nature. When somebody faces problem, we call it backwardness or vulnerability. It is the migrant population which faces compounded vulnerability. They experience multiple kind of backwardness and multiple kind of exploitations in our society as of now. Okay, so now to the prelims question. So the answers to these questions I have attached in the last slide. Just because those who want to answer, if they want to verify, they can have a look at that. Very good morning, Rishi. Very good morning, Nagula. Okay, consider the following statements regarding electoral participation of internal migrants in India. One says the right to vote in India is a fundamental right guaranteed in Part 3 of the Constitution. 2. The Representation of Peoples Act 1950 empowers the Election Commission of India to prepare and revise electoral rolls. 3. Under the current law, a voter can simultaneously be registered at both the home state and the destination state. Destination state means where people migrate to work. Okay, the state where they are living. So they can be registered at both these places where they are working and the place to which they belong. So which of these statements is correct? Try to answer. You can verify your answer from the last slide. A very good morning, Deepak. So now let's proceed with the next mains oriented article for the day. Article says, why does India need a special national space law? We are talking about successful landing of Chandrayaan 3. India achieved a rare feat by becoming the only country to be soft landing on the southern pole of the moon. It was a proud moment. Very recently, Mr. Shukla has become another astronaut to be the first one from India to go to the International Space Station. We are looking at our first human crewed space flight, Gaganyaan, very soon. We talk about, the various other initiatives like the Shukriyaan. So, Indian space domain is definitely expanding. We are now becoming one of the very few countries in the world who can claim to have a proper space program with so many achievements in the recent past. But there is something that is missing even now. And this is the National Space Law. The article on page number 8 is asking you, why do we need a special dedicated national space law right now? So quickly, let's get to work. Let's try to understand the article. Before that, to which UPSC syllabus topic does this article belong to? It belongs to GS paper 3. Yes. It belongs to GS paper 3 because we are talking about science and technology here. India's space program is included. ISRO is included. Various missions between ISRO and NASA are included. The Gaganyaan is included. Of course, it is also GS paper 1 because it is dealing with current affairs of national and international importance. Okay, national and international importance. So it is also a part of your static current affairs, India's space program in general. So let's have a look at what is the key issue being spoken to here. Well, the key issue is that today India's space program has definitely entered a whole new era. As I said, from Chandrayaan 3's huge success on the moon to the upcoming Gaganyaan human space flight, for which the preparations are already going. Right? So, we are also very soon planning a very interesting initiative named as the Bharat Antariksha Station, Indian Space Station. This is also something that we are planning. India is also opening its space sector to private participation. For example, if you look at the recent past, India has allowed a foreign direct investment of about 100% in satellite components. This is quite important to remember. You might get a question in GS paper 3 that is the Indian government now planning to privatize the space sector? Yes, we are, big time. India has allowed foreign direct investment in the space sector. Look at this, 100% foreign direct investment without any upper limit on the satellite component manufacturing and supply. Then about 74% foreign direct investment in launch vehicles. This is a lot of privatization that we are planning. But despite all these, we still lack a proper, comprehensive, dedicated space law. The problem is that India is a member of many existing global space treaties. The biggest one being the Outer Space Treaty, the OST of 1967. Yes, India is a member of this. India has ratified this. Plus, there are many other such protocols that I will talk about right now. India has signed for them. But they are not enough to meet our domestic obligations because these are very general in nature. These international or global protocols, they apply to all countries equally. But that's not the real situation on the ground. In reality, every country has its own technical problems when it comes to space development. It could be about human resource. It could be about how much to privatize. It could be about funding problem. It could be about lack of raw materials to manufacture sufficient equipment. It could also be about how the safety laws from one country can be very different from safety laws of another country. So international laws are good, but they cannot completely decide your space program. Hence, we need our own indigenous, domestic, dedicated India space program. So let's see which international protocols does India follow right now as of 2025 if we talk about. Absolutely, very well said. Oceans also have a lot to explore, and yes, India is doing on that front also. If you need a good current affair video on that, you can definitely post in the comment box. Okay, so which global protocols does India follow right now? The biggest is the Outer Space Treaty, as I said, the OST of 1967. What does this say? It says there is the basic rule of non appropriation principle, which means outer space, the outer space matter, including the moon, stars, other celestial bodies, other space objects, they cannot be claimed by one country. So China cannot argue here. You cannot have a claim on them. They belong to all the countries equally. Everyone has an equal right. Peaceful purpose. We cannot use nuclear weapons or any military weapon in the outer space. A good lesson for China, Israel, and Russia. There is freedom of exploration. The Outer Space Treaty gives various countries the freedom to explore the outer space for research, for development, for their own skill enhancement, but then that's equally to all the countries. Similarly, the states, the governments of various countries are responsible for all the activities that they are conducting in the space, and this includes the private companies also. You might argue SpaceX, Elon Musk, will he be responsible? He has to be. At least the US government will have to be. Or whichever country SpaceX works with to do any activity in the space, that country has to take the responsibility if there is a damage, if there is waste found in the outer space, we call it space debris, or any other accident that happens. Similarly, the countries of the world have a responsibility for any damage that happens to any objects in the space, including any component of International Space Station, including any other object, any other satellite in the space. Countries are equally responsible. This is the Outer Space Treaty, very important. It's a very democratic principle, equal to everyone. At the same time, there are many other treaties that India has agreed to apart from that. For example, there is the Rescue Agreement of 1968. Astronauts who are caught up in the space. This might remind you of how Sunita Williams was actually stranded in the space for quite a long period. Rather than few months, it was up to 9 months. Similarly, recently, as Subhanshu Shukla, India's astronaut, who recently went under the Axiom mission to the International Space Station, he spoke with Prime Minister Modi. He was mentioning how dangerous it is sometimes. When traveling to space, you never know. A small technical glitch happens and astronauts can be stranded up in the International Space Station for many, many months. It has a very different impact on the body of astronauts. So, to rescue such astronauts is a global responsibility under Rescue Agreement. Then you have the Liability Convention, 1972. Countries are liable, as I said, for any damage caused to any object in the space. You have 1976 US Convention, which means all the objects which are put in the space by any country, they have to be registered under the United Nations. That registration is compulsory, whether it's private, whether it's government sponsored. Then comes the Moon Agreement. Now, India has not agreed to the Moon Agreement. Please understand, India has not agreed to all these protocols. Yes, India has agreed to the Outer Space Treaty. India has agreed to at least the Rescue Agreement. India has agreed to Liability Convention, but India has not agreed to the Moon Agreement. Okay, so despite these many treaties existing, these are very good actually, but still these are not enough. As I said, they do not take care of your domestic, your own national policies. So we need a dedicated space law. For example, India has not ratified so many agreements, including the Moon Agreement, Rescue, Liability, Registration Convention, and even when India tried to create a proper space activity bill in 2017, it got lapsed. It was not passed. It could not be passed in the parliament. It was quite an ambitious law. It spoke about who will be responsible for any accident, private sector participation, which companies will get license, but unfortunately that law did not pass. So today we need a proper parliamentary law. Why? Because we need to decide which private companies should be given license, which should not be. We have to decide in case of any accident in the space, the death or injury to an astronaut, or space debris, waste left behind by any private company in this space, who will be responsible? What kind of punishment or penalty to give them? So we have to find a national solution for all that. The law should also try to talk about giving proper license, avoiding too many governmental bureaucratic controls over this process. Also, trying to have a much more strong government support for private companies to go and explore the space sector. See, no private company will invest money in creating space missions in India unless the government strongly takes responsibility and supports them. Unless there is a fair and competitive license giving system, no private company, no space company will actually try to compete in the Indian market. So, if you want to privatize our space industry, we have to make sure that license permission, license allocation are done in a fair manner, in a quick manner, in efficient manner. All this is possible only if we have a dedicated parliamentary law today. Similarly, the startups who want to try to get into this new exciting industry should also know how much will they be penalized if anything goes wrong? What is the limit of liability on them? Will they be given any insurance? Right? Or whether the government is ready to issue them intellectual property rights. IPR is a major issue here. For example, just like SpaceX, if an Indian startup wants to create a spacecraft and it wants to try and explore the space, will Indian government give any guarantee to that startup that under our country's law, nobody will be able to copy your manufacturing process? Nobody will be able to cheat, or nobody will be able to forfeit, copy your unique license. That guarantee is also needed. Otherwise, why will anybody waste so much money, time, energy in research and development? So that guarantee also has to come to the private companies that we will protect your intellectual property rights. If you create a spacecraft, or if you create a space component, or if you try to carry on a space mission. So all these can happen only when there is a proper law that regulates this sector. Because even if you talk about something as simple as space debris, today when so many countries, private sector companies are trying to enter into space. There are so many space shuttles, so many satellite components that get spoiled. They get broken. They get burnt. Where does all that debris, all that waste go? Debris means waste. Where does it go? It is a dangerous situation because we cannot leave behind a carbon footprint even in outer space. We have done enough to the planet. So therefore, we need a parliamentary law to regulate all these laws. We also need government to provide a law which can determine proper satellite communication network. The use of this satellite data, which industries will it be used? It is not misused for any wrong purpose. And of course, proper maintaining of this data is equally important. So hence, we need a law today. That's what the article says. Quickly, a prelims question here. Question says, consider the following statements regarding India's space governance. 1. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 needs the governments to take responsibility for space activities of both government and private companies. 2. In space, which it's a body in India, it's an organization in India, which right now does determine licensing and permissions to private companies. But it does not have a statutory status right now. That's why we need a parliamentary law. So, the second statement says this organization in space, which authorizes, allows private sector activities in India, does not have a legal standing right now. It doesn't have a statutory backing. 3. Space Activities Bill 2017 has been enacted to provide clear liability and insurance framework for private sector operators. So, which of these statements is valid according to you? Do post in the comment box. Of course, there is a reason behind all this rat race to enter space. That's a very good question. The reason is that the world today is hungry for resources. So, not only are we rushing towards more ocean mining, deep ocean mining, but also more outer space exploration. Ultimately, it's always economy. It is always the search for more resource. That's the reason behind the race into deep ocean mining, outer space exploration, the drilling in Arctic Circle, because it's not protected by any legal treaty, unlike Antarctica, and various other glaciers and ice cap. Reasons like why countries like China, Russia, US, they are having a rat race to conquer the space and the sea is all because of resource crunch at the end of the day. So primarily it's the economic reason. Okay. Now, the next article is actually a very wonderful news. This is page number 11. It's a short article. It says how India has successfully test fired its Agni 5 missile. Once again, a great boost in the arm for India's defense forces. The topic, if we talk about, then this is definitely GS paper 3 of UPSC main syllabus, because this is science and technology. We will talk about the long range missiles, and we will talk about the MIRV technology. Now, this technology was in news even in 2024. Direct question can be expected in the prelims. You might have a question in the mains also. That how today India has become one of the very few countries who claim to have mastered or acquired the MIRV missile technology or missile defense systems. So this is GS paper 3, science and technology, India's defense sector, MIRV technology, as well as the long range ballistic missile technology. The article says now that India has successfully fired the Agni 5 missile. Okay, now this is a great achievement because this has been fired from the integrated test range, the ITR, in Chandipur, Odisha. And this has been done under the management of Strategic Forces Command. But what is this Agni 5 missile all about? So, this is India's longest range missile that has been created indigenously within the country. That's the greatest part. It has been made within the country, and this is India's longest range missile, which means it can hit the enemy targets at a distance of over 5,500 kilometers away. Therefore, it qualifies to be ICBM, known as Intercontinental Ballistic Missile System, a system where long range missiles can actually deliver nuclear warhead at a massive distance, which is far, far away, say about 5,000 to 5,500 kilometers away, which means if fired, it can cover entire Asia, entire African continent, and parts of European continent. So imagine how large is the range of this missile. So this will definitely give another boost to our self defense capacity, to our self manufacturing capacity in the defense sector. The payload of the Agni 5 is about 1.5 tons of nuclear warhead or any other non nuclear warhead. This is a unique MIRV technology. Now, what do we mean by the MIRV technology? Very important question. It means that initially, as it was tested in 2024, by MIRV, we mean that a missile that is capable of carrying many different nuclear warloads. The missile is just one, but it can carry many different nuclear warloads which can be directed in different directions towards different targets. So it can be thrown at or attacked at separate targets at the same time. So that's the greatest thing about this technology. It can be launched from any moving platform also. You can actually launch it from not only a stationary on ground platform, but a mobile platform as well, which means in any war situation, it gives an excellent edge to the Indian Defense Forces. Now, this will be equipped with many advanced systems like, technically talking, the ring laser gyroscope. Similarly, the inertial navigation system. There will be proper satellite mapping and guidance so that targets are hit accurately in case there is a need to. And of course, it is an indigenous development for India. So it has been created by the Defense Research and Development Organization, the DRDO. Why is this development so strategically significant for India? We all know that the world has become a war zone right now. Didn't we see yesterday how the North Korean leader, Kim Jong un, has said that if US and South Korea continue to practice military drills in the Korean peninsula, then I will not sit quiet. He is already testing many more nuclear facilities and missiles. Similarly, Israel is also not ready to sit back in peace. It has said that I will go ahead with my expansionist program in the Gaza region, no matter who says what. There is no final verdict whether Russia Ukraine war will actually stop. Myanmar already is seeing once again rattling between the junta and the civil government. You see, the world is already in a bad geopolitical situation. There is conflict everywhere. Recently, when the Pahalgam attack happened and India conducted Operation Sindoor, didn't it speak volumes about how important it is for a country to be prepared for an attack, for a war just absolutely anytime 24/7? Whether it be countries like China, with whom we are shaking hands today, with whom we are going to meet in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization next month or end of this month, you never know. Back few years before, the Galwan Valley episode did happen, right? So you never know when enemy become friends and when friends become enemies. In this kind of a complex situation, it is extremely crucial for army to be prepared all the time for self defense as well as for attack. So therefore it enhances India's capacity to fight extremist agencies like China and Pakistan, because India is geopolitically situated in such a sensitive spot and we need to be prepared from both the sides. Similarly, it also leads India to become a part of strategic triad, which means today India has a capacity of self defense not only in naval, not only in air force, but also overland. By creating this wonderful MIRB nuclear delivery system, then India also has become one of the very few countries who today can claim to be having the MIRB technology like US, Russia, China, France. India today has both the intercontinental ballistic missile system as well as the MIRB system. India has both capacities. Very few countries have that, including US, Russia, China, France, and now it's India. That's a great feat to remember. This question very important for prelims. Which countries can have or they do have both ICBM and MIRB technology? Very important to remember. Then India also today will experience a complete game change when very difficult to intercept, very difficult to capture missiles will also be able to be targeted by our military through such advanced defense systems. So this is the pitch of the article. And now a quick prelims question. For the last question, this is absolutely the valid answer. You can verify from the last page of the slide anyway. And now with reference to Agni 5 missile, please consider these statements. 1. It is a 3-stage solid fueled road mobile intercontinental ballistic missile. Is it 2? It has been successfully tested with MIRV technology, that is the multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle. As I said, from same target, from same place, you can hit many targets at the same time. 3. It has an operational range exceeding 8,000 kilometers. Easy question. Which of these statements is or are valid? Now, to another very interesting article, and this is from page number 1 itself. Once again, a constitutional political controversy has broken out. Once again, a universal constitutional controversy has broken out. So, which UPSC syllabus will we map this article to? Definitely, this is GS paper 2 polity. It is not only about center-state relationships, but it is also quite a lot about transparency, corruption in governance. A very interesting thing has happened. It is the Union Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, who yesterday has produced a bill in the parliament. In fact, not just one, three bills in the parliament, which talks about a very unique development. He says that the government wants to bring transparency in administration. And for this purpose, the three bills are trying to propose an automatic removal of Prime Minister, chief ministers of various states, or the leaders of union territories and state ministers and union territory ministers if they remain in judicial custody for over 30 consecutive days, or if they are imposed with serious criminal charges. In case any serious criminal charge is put on them, even before they can finally go to the jail, they will be removed. Because government says we do not want corruption in politics. We do not want criminalization of politics. The aim is to clean our politics morally. But the opposition has a problem. The opposition says that this is against Article 21 of the Constitution, the right to life, the right to liberty, the right to be proven innocent until found guilty. That's the opposition. But the government says we want to bring morality in the constitution. So, what do you think the controversy will lead to? Let's have a look at the article quickly. And also, let's remember that opposition is saying that this is a threat to federalism. But the government, when it is introducing these three bills, is saying that we need to create better ethics in our governance. So, therefore, according to one of the reports that was highlighted by the Government Association for Democratic Reforms, about 40% of ministers of parliament in the current Lok Sabha are facing some or the other criminal charge on them. And these are all serious crimes. So the government is asking today, is there a logic of allowing ministers who have such serious criminal charges on their head to be sitting in the parliament? Is it valid? It's not valid, definitely. We cannot allow 40% of MPs being those who are facing prosecution. What kind of transparency, ethics, and morality are we talking about? So, therefore, the three bills that government has proposed are the Constitution 130th Amendment Bill. Please remember, I'm so happy you were waiting for this article, Shaggy. Yes, it's a very important article for the day. The first is Constitution 130th Amendment Bill 2025, which right now proposes to change existing Article 75, 164, 239AA of Indian Constitution. Okay, that is one thing.